Jam Yearbook. I'm Matt.
And I'm Jim.
We're here to take you on a journey through the years as we explore the music in our lifetime and the impact it's had on us in the world we've lived in.
Welcome to version 1990.
We have a really big show today, folks. I think if we begin with even a tease of what's to come, we won't stop, and that would be unfair to the memory of an absolute legend we lost in 1990.
Oh, yeah.
Get the Kleenex, Jim. Stevie Ray Vaughan. He does not fall too far down the list of greatest guitarists ever.
No.
It was well known that he struggled with alcohol and he had quit drinking. And it really felt like his career was ready to take that next leap after he released In Step in 1989. His death was one of the first I remember being a real gut punch.
Yeah, and we've acknowledged before that we remember seeing one another the day his death was announced, and we had a conversation about it. My parents used to get the newspaper delivered every morning, and I read it as a kid pretty religiously over breakfast before internet and tablets.
Yeah.
Hey, reading the paper. This article about his death was front page, and as I'm sure it did for many people, it ruined the start of my day. We could probably spend an episode talking about his music and impact, but instead, I'm just going to recommend to everybody to go check out the concert video of his performance at the El Macambo Club in Texas.
Oh, that's
awesome. Legendary. His performance at Texas Flood alone is one of the greatest guitar performances I've ever seen. Yeah, he died in a helicopter crash at the age of 35. Sad stuff. But okay, Matt, let's get on with the fun stuff and why we're here today.
Yes, we shall. Jim, why don't you tell everyone why 1990 is so special?
Well, along with being the start of the final decade of the millennium, it was also the year I graduated high school.
Okay, here we go. Jim's going to take a drink and clear his throat. Right on cue. There he goes. Now, deep breath. And I'm going to take the rest of the show off. Let it rip, Jim.
Yeah, deep breaths. I could use a little Bob Ross right now.
Oh, some little puffy clouds.
Happy little trees. 1990 makes a hot mess out of me. Why? Because it's a time that I look back and really, Matt, I loved it all of the music, pretty much everything. I was a square peg that couldn't be shoved into a circle. If you got into my car, you could unapologetically hear anything from New Kids on the Block, Snap, or Belle Biv DeVoe to The Church, REM, Jane's Addiction, MC Hammer. Hell yeah. Vanilla Ice, Depeche Mode, the Black Crowes. Give me some. There had been this dance guy, Jim, dumbass parachute pants, hair all moosed up. Literally, I think the song Pretty Fly for a White Guy might have been a spoof song about a certain side of me in 1990. But I had other sides too. And no, not just slow jams. You know, the alternative music was a new thing. And I was secretly listening to it when I wasn't afraid of being cool in front of my peers. I'd given some openings to discover new avenues. I was hanging out with the hippie kids and peer groups. I'd already gotten into The Cure and the Violent Femmes. I volunteered at my first summer camp in 1990. If you know me, this is a big part of my life. For 8 summers in the 90s, I worked at summer camps. So right here it started. I fell hard for a girl who was a huge David Bowie fan. And Matt, you know me, of course. I needed to be a David Bowie fan too. But it wasn't meant to be. And well, not being a Bowie fan, because that happened. And after my first real heartbreak, I picked up a guitar that my brother had left behind in his closet, and I bought a Bowie songbook. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
This isn't as much about music from the 90s, and I get that. But it was a huge moment that would establish much of my identity in music for the next 20 years. So here in this show now, in this episode, it has to be mentioned. Some big albums for me in 1990. Some of these we share, and some of these we certainly did not.
Oh, yeah. No, we didn't. So I graduated the year prior in 89, and I was realizing how fast the world moves outside of that insulated bubble of high school. But I was still pretty well in touch because of friends. And I remember 1990 as being a pretty big mixed bag, and not in a bad way. There was a lot of different music getting its share of attention.
Yeah.
And I noticed how many big names you dropped at the beginning. And I'm curious about getting a little in depth as to what was going on musically in your senior year over at North Country.
Well, Don't worry, Matt. I'm not going to get too much into New Kids on the Block because
Thank you.
yes, that was it. That was one mention. That's all.
Everybody can breathe a sigh of
Yes.
relief, except for that one person, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe there's more. I don't know. They weren't my jam, but they were for a lot of other people.
Yeah, they were.
And over the course of the show, we've had some good opportunities to talk about hair metal, but
Mhm.
we're running really lean on years in which we can really bring that up. So I'd kind of like to start there. Hair
Okay.
metal, it's kind of falsely labeled heavy metal, at least back in the day it was, before we all, learned what real heavy metal was, and it also shared that label of glam. We need to put an end to that right now. It's hair metal. It's closely related. It shares a very near branch on the family tree to glam. If anything, it probably should have been called new glam, give it the old N-U, new glam. It's not quite the douchey third cousin twice removed from its father's mother's grand uncle side, but it's hair metal. It's
Oh
not
man.
glam.
From this point forward, I'm calling hair metal new glam.
Yeah,
That's
I like new
fantastic.
glam.
Why do we have to call it anything but that? And it's better, in my opinion, than hair metal.
Yeah,
'Cause,
hair
yeah,
sounds a little derogatory.
it
Like
does,
you're
but
you're labeling its importance based on a physical appearance.
and at the same time, all those guys in metal, whether you were Metallica or Poison, you all had long hair.
Yeah.
So yeah, just some used hairspray and some didn't. So would you call it hairspray metal? No, new
Yeah,
glam.
Aquanet metal.
Yeah,
Aqua metal.
new glam. That's
New
the
glam.
best. Yeah.
All right. Okay, so this new glam, it was taking its last breaths, but there were still bands having some pretty good success. There wasn't the sheer numbers of previous years, though.
No, there was a hair metal gym in those years. I definitely listened, but I was about as far away from the image as you could have imagined because I talked about the parachute pants, the hair all moosed
Yeah.
up. But in my box cassettes, you'd find Slaughter. I loved Up All Night. The damn Yankees drew me in with their ballads. High Enough was a good song. Truth be told, ballads were tractor beams that sucked me into metal at that time. My favorite was probably Extreme. The Pornography cassette had turned over and over in my car's tape player. So it wasn't just the ballads. I mean, they had real talent. Nuno Betancourt is a top 5 guitar player from his generation.
Oh, without
Extreme,
doubt.
yeah. Extreme may have been the biggest band in the world if they'd hit the scene 5 years earlier. But by the time they showed up, that new glam or hair metal genre that they were falling into had been pretty fatigued by the time they came around.
Yeah, and Extreme was one of the bands leading that last charge because they had quite a few hits off that record. Wholehearted and More Than Words.
Yep.
I wouldn't call Wholehearted a ballad, but it's no rocker either. There's those songs were everywhere.
Did you know that Wholehearted, the guitar that's on the album, came straight off the demo that they cut when Nuno came up with a guitar part?
Yes, I did because I had a copy of that.
Isn't that
of that
awesome?
demo. Yeah, it is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, when you can't improve on it, you just take it.
Yeah. You capture that moment, and that's what they did. Yep.
Yeah, and you were I'll fess up, you weren't alone with Slaughter. I listened to that. I dug it at the time. Because Dana Strum and Mark Slaughter, they were in Vinnie Vincent Invasion, which Vinnie Vincent was part of Kiss. They're in that family tree.
Well, you had Fly to the Angels as well.
Oh yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, geez, there you go. Another damn ballad.
Yep.
And Warrant too. It's hard to believe that in 1990, Cherry Pie, their second album, was in 1990. That's really
my cherry pie. Sorry.
Yeah, and no, keep going. and they had more balladry with I Saw Red.
Yeah.
Those ballads seem to be the highest charting hits any of those bands would have, and it made it incredibly important for a band to write, one or at least two for each record. And I've had some pretty harsh things to say about Poison in the past, but I will admit they finally put out an album that sounded good with Flesh and Blood. It's one that I could surprisingly was able to still listen to this week. It's a case where, we've talked about before, sometimes when a band matures, it takes away what made them great to begin with, but this actually helped them. So I challenged myself to listen to it this week because I saw it and just the album cover kind of gave me those bad chills up my spine. Like, oh, but I instead of regretting it, I really liked it. It was a good listen.
Well, to be honest, the song Something to Believe In off that album still goes on to a playlist that I'll make to this day. It came very close to my 5 this week. It was tough. I mean, 1990s full of all this music that I really love, but it's a song that I still really enjoy. And I don't care if it's Poison. A good song is a good song.
You're right. You're right. And it was another top 10 ballad hit from a hair band, a new
Mhm.
glam band. And Winger, they kind of get beat up a little bit. I'm not sure what the extent of their popularity was in school. Their ballad "Miles Away" just missed the top 10. I think what made them uncool historically was Beavis and Butthead's friend Stewart wearing a Winger t-shirt. But Red Beach came up with some killer riffs.
Yeah, but remember, Matt, some people might have been a little creeped out by a 27-year-old singing about his 17-year-old groupie too.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
only 17.
Oh man, why you got to slam the brakes on like that, dude? You just ruined the well, no, they ruined the song.
Hey,
No.
the Beatles sang, well, she was just 17, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, he was probably 18. So
no, he was 27. Well,
Oh, he
actually,
was?
Reb Beach was a teenager when he wrote that guitar riff. I did look this
Okay.
up. I needed to be able to talk about this
Okay.
and bring this up as a joke in the show
Yeah.
without feeling like a creepy guy. and so this song was established while they were younger guys, and they kept playing it.
Well, Kip Winger had been around a while. I think I
Oh,
mentioned
yeah.
in I think version 1986. Kip Winger, he had been playing with Alice Cooper.
Yeah. And so
For
I
a
make my
while.
joke at their expense, but now I'll let
Yes.
people know the real history
Yeah.
in defense of the song itself.
Hey, a joke is a joke, and there's usually a little nugget of truth in there somewhere.
And if I offended you even a little bit, I did my job.
Yes, exactly. and through the whole new glam era, AC/DC kept true to themselves. There was
Mhm.
no changing AC/DC. Thunderstruck was another hit in a long line of timeless rock anthems. They had a knack for writing. And I have one more gripe with Spotify. Well, maybe I shouldn't say one more. I should say another gripe with Spotify,
Yeah.
because I don't want to put an end to that. I'm sure I'll find more as time goes on. I had the band Company of Wolves in my 5, but it's not there to stream. They have a new album, or newer. I think it was like 2017 or 2019, but we're talking 1990. And I'm probably talking to an audience of 2 right now. Mark and Chris will know the band I'm talking about. I couldn't find them anywhere but YouTube. And like Tesla, they got lumped in with Hair, but they're a little more hard rock. Great damn album. I was really looking forward to adding them to my playlist. But Spotify said, no soup for you.
Well, that's probably 2 more people that listen to us anyway. So
Yeah.
thanks, Mark and Chris.
Yeah. And go listen to that new album. It's good. It's good.
Okay,
It's
good
just
stuff.
more of what we loved back in 1990. And speaking of Tesla, they had an unexpected release with the 5-man acoustical jam.
Oh yeah, I was really into this album. I had the cassette of it, and the version the way it is, and not the Bruce Hornsby cover. It's not a Bruce Hornsby cover, people. Matt, do we know how much you love Bruce Hornsby?
Yeah.
No. This Tesla song, this was my favorite track off of that.
Oh yeah. And they teased We Will Work It Out too, right? By the Beatles.
Yes.
Was that the Beatles song they teased? And then everybody was like, oh no, you're gonna stop. You got to keep doing it.
Yeah, that's the one. That was the Beatles song they were doing.
Yep, that's too bad, because you could hear the disappointment in the room when it stopped. But that was definitely one of my favorites from 1990. And looking back, they are one of the best bands from those years. Those first few records are amazingly consistent, and they were an absolutely great live band.
Yep.
Another big metal release was Queensryche's Empire.
Hush,
Silent
now
Lucidity.
Don't you cry.
There you go. Silent Lucidity. It was the smash. 5 years prior, I never would have thought they had an album that would have been this big, or even sniffed a Grammy nomination. But they cranked out more hits with the title track, Jet City Woman, and Best I Can. I never quite got the Pink Floyd comparison with Silent Lucidity, but I'm not a Floyd scholar. And if that's what people hear, then hey, cheers.
Yeah.
You be you.
I don't hear the Floyd comparison either. And I think maybe it's just sometimes putting another band that you love on a pedestal, because Floyd is on a pedestal.
And it's possible that, the right reviewer had that one moment, and then that becomes like a recycled talking point.
Oh yeah. Everybody just kind of says the same. And so there was also this other side. We talked about the hair metal Jim, but the guy who actually probably was most honest in appearance was the parachute pants Jim. That's as I refer to him. I put capital letters there.
Did you have
Parachute
cut
pants.
off parachute pant
No, you don't cut
shorts
those off.
for camp?
No, they just have to go
Not
right down
even
to
for
the ankle.
summer camp?
Come on, they have to go right to the ankle so you get the full parachute effect.
Oh, they didn't have the
Otherwise,
zippers to take off the bottom part of the
otherwise,
leg?
this is not this was not Michael Jordan, Air Jordan outfits. You know,
They
there
weren't the
was,
90s baggy jeans though. Oh,
and I didn't wear acid wash like you probably did.
oh I did not wear acid
Okay.
wash. Holy shit, acid wash.
Yeah. So with parachute pants, Jim, there was MC Hammer, Vanilla Ice, Snap, Tony has done it again. Belle Biv DeVoe, who've kind of gotten a little bit creepy, and you get, you know, I give Winger a hard time, but you know, that Poison was okay, but Do Me, yeah, I gotta go to that
do
for a
me
moment.
in the morning.
Yeah,
You
well,
can
no,
do me
backstage, underage,
Ooh,
adolescent. How you
you-
doing? Fine.
right?
Yeah. You just
Yep.
don't sing those lyrics anymore.
No.
But when I was 17, it didn't bother me, of course. And
Yeah.
they brought out the inner running man in me every chance they could.
I don't know how inner that running man was. That was pretty close to the surface. But this was a golden age of rap and hip hop
Yeah,
for our
you're
generation.
right.
You know, a ton of new artists coming out. It seemed like every couple weeks there was some new banger coming out, and it really grabbed people's attention. This was good time party music that you couldn't escape. If it wasn't on the radio or a video show, your friends were listening to it in their car, at their place. You couldn't escape it. In the 90s, it had just as much claim to putting more nails in the hair metal coffin as grunge.
Mm-hmm.
So who were your go-tos? You named a bunch, but I definitely remember MC Hammer and Vanilla Ice.
Mm-hmm.
But what about Delight? And afterwards, can we have a Humpty Dance sing along?
Oh, yeah,
If we're singing
absolutely.
along?
We can do that. To be fair, Delight, Grooves and Hearts, a song I'd probably still throw on a playlist today.
Yeah, that's a good song.
And come on, that's Bootsy Collins playing bass. You can't go
Yeah.
wrong.
No, you can't.
That's phenomenal. And yeah, man, you know, do me, baby. I once got busy in a Burger King bathroom. You know, these are classic 90s rap lines, you know, 1990 rap lyrics. It's great. Yeah. So as I just mentioned, I spent a lot of time as a passenger in your brother Mark's truck, and he had a boom box that was in the front seat, and we were going on road trips to see friends from this first summer camp that I worked at because he was there as well. And you sing a lot of camp songs when you're at camp. And Mark and I just happened to get in the front of that truck, and we just kept singing everywhere we went. It didn't matter.
Yeah, I had forgotten about Mark's truck. There was no cassette player, and he had a boombox stashed behind the front seat that if you wanted to listen to anything but AM radio, because it only had an AM radio too, you had to take that out. I remember seeing him. He would just be back there kind of reaching, hitting the play button.
I remember stopping at stores to run in to buy batteries because we were traveling and we had to put them back in to make sure we could keep listening to music.
Well, you're not going to listen to AM radio.
No. And you know, it was a lot of fun. We were listening to the Robert Palmer Don't Explain album, the Rembrandts, and yes, Nelson.
Oh, Nelson.
Yes.
Oh, Nelson. I love that
After the
Rembrandts album.
rain. Oh, sorry. I cut you off.
No, keep going. Keep going. That Rembrandts album is a big one from back in the day.
Yeah. Before anybody asks, the theme from Friends was not on that album. If they know.
No, yeah, that was a hidden track on like their third album.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Jim just had the clap there.
Yeah, it probably didn't. It probably didn't come through. I probably had the clap a long time ago.
Yeah. And I always thanks for going along with the joke. Maybe horribly inappropriate, but you know, sometimes you just got to go with what you know, and that's bad humor.
It is.
The Rembrandts I always took for an updated Everly Brothers.
Okay.
From the beginning of that record with Just the Way It Is all the way to the end, it's one great sing-along song after another. I was so happy they were able to find some recognition because of Friends, but I was always like, yeah, but what about this album? This is better.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the draw to Robert Palmer? I remember the Mercy Mercy Me cover, but I don't remember anything else. Probably because I just didn't listen to it.
I think possibly the draw to that was that he kind of swapped up genres within the album, and it made a big difference. He had a song called Housework on the album that literally was some kind of almost ska reggae sing
Yeah,
along
he
to
would
going
toss
around the
that
house,
flavor in there.
going around and cleaning. It was all based on cleaning the house. Do the kitchen, do the dishes, go
Yeah.
here and clean the toilets, go, doing the housework. And then at the end, the second half of the album finishes with like crooner material. Like,
Yeah, because he could do that.
yeah. And there was, I don't know, there's just something about it that was very unique and stood
Okay.
apart from a lot of the pop music that was coming out at the time.
Yep. And he had a signature sound of doing a low and a high part while he was singing.
Yeah, he did.
Pretty much the
Yeah.
whole song.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're noticing, but I'm not really furthering the talk of Nelson. But I'll admit I had it and I listened. It was probably my copy that was in Mark's truck.
we talk about hair metal. We talk about hair, period. Nobody had prettier hair than Nelson.
No, they did. And
Yeah.
it might be a case where sometimes the visual doesn't help the music.
It probably didn't. Those guys weren't untalented. It was just how they were caught in a sound that was very,
Yeah, and the package just was like, all right, hair metal's reached its end. Everything's contrived. Let's
yes,
just
yeah.
put an end to it.
And they had that pop rock sound that once alternative and grunge came along more the following year, it was
They
like,
weren't going to survive.
they were not going to live through that. And speaking of that, in 1990 we had alternative rock gym. I put that in capitals as well. We tend to lean away from talking about soundtracks to movies on this show because we've admitted they can be contrived, but the movie Pump Up the Volume and the soundtrack to it had a lot to do with molding this side of me. It made me aware of the social constructs that we live in and how a little anarchy is sometimes a good thing. I wanted so badly to be Christian Slater's character.
Yeah.
Yeah, with my own radio station, my pirate radio station.
And have that triumphant ending.
Oh, Happy Harry Hard On.
Yeah.
It was probably the most underrated movie of the time period and had more to do with the alternative anti-establishment scene that was going to drop over the next couple of years with grunge than we realized at the time.
Oh yeah, Pump Up the Volume is criminally underrated. I remember introducing it to some people and I couldn't believe how pumped they were after. It really spoke to them.
Yeah. All right. So as far as other music that I was listening to, there was an album by World Party called Goodbye Jumbo, Concrete Blonde. Well, they had that song on the Pump Up the Volume soundtrack, the cover of Everybody Knows by Leonard Cohen, which was great. Their album Bloodletting.
Oh yeah, Joey was a great song.
Yeah, it's like really good. The Soup Dragons, which I was the very first band I ever saw go on a stage in an arena somewhere. I was side by side with you. Jane's Addiction, the Ritual the Habitual album. Forget Been Caught Stealing. 3 Days is the song off that album for me that's just phenomenal. The Cocteau Twins, Heaven in Las Vegas. I saw them up at Metropolis in Montreal. Just I'm really into some of the indie stuff, the alternative stuff that was coming along.
How big was World Party? I'm wondering why that didn't sound familiar. It was really good. I really liked that album.
It was formed by a guy called Carl Wallinger. I didn't really know much about him, but I've heard of the Waterboys because they're pretty big over here in the UK, and he was the keyboard player.
Yeah, I remember them.
Yeah. So the song Way Down Now was probably their bigger single. If you heard that or you're listening to the album, that might have been one that was slightly familiar to you.
Okay.
But the song Put a Message in the Box was probably the song I listened to the most off of the album. And so I'm saying that as an honorable mention now. Here we go, because it wasn't in my 5. But go listen to Put a Message in the Box. It's just a good song. It's just great singer-songwriting stuff. Let me ask, did you listen to early Jane's Addiction?
Outside of Been Caught Stealing, not at the time. Because, what was the name of it? 3
Days.
3 Days. Yeah, you're right. 3 Days is the song, but Ben Costillon, that's their anthem. It's more accessible. 3 Days is a great, deep listening song, and Navarro's solo on that is absolutely killer.
Oh, hell yeah.
When I finally did dive into this album, it wasn't, it was probably like 3 or 4 years down the road. I did a complete 180 on them. I kind of, and it was based on Ben Caught Stealing. While I liked it, seeing the video and everything, it didn't paint them in a good light to me. It kind of just felt contrived. But then songs like 3 Days made me realize what they are capable of. because
Yeah.
that's a 3-part song.
Yeah, it is.
You
Yeah.
know, it's really incredible.
Mhm.
And when I started listening to all my indie bands, I realized that there were doors I had closed a long time ago, and Cocteau Twins was behind one of those doors.
Mhm.
But when I was getting into my indie music, that's when I finally connected with Cocteau Twins. I finally, something clicked. I finally got it because there are some shared sounds in the indie music that I was listening to. And I don't want to get too far away from Concrete Blonde without, I don't know if you can overstate how great that band is.
Yeah.
I'm finding Concrete Blonde just keeps getting better with age.
Yeah, they're definitely one of those bands you retrospectively realize are timeless.
I couldn't agree more. The songs aren't crafted to be of a certain time, and Johnette's voice is so powerful. I love it so much.
Yeah. All right, Matt. And finally, we've discussed in the past a little bit, we touched on it here and there, probably talked about it more personally, but your disdain for musicals in previous shows. I did something during the summer of 1990 that you would probably abhor. I played Danny Zuko in a stock company production of Grease. It,
Oh,
it was a definitive moment of my life, learning about performance and gaining self-confidence. Playing that role was one of the most enjoyable moments I've ever had. One of the things that will always make me feel good. My dad, he came to see it on opening night. I thought, okay, that's it. My dad came and saw me. That's cool. He proceeded to come back and sit in the front row every other night to watch the show.
oh, that's great.
Yeah, it made me feel really good. And it was one of those moments where you really feel like you made a parent proud.
It always just hits you in the heart when you feel that support from
Yeah.
the people who are important in your life,
And I
right?
also think when you're on stage and you're conscious of people that are out there and you're trying to act, probably the first night, I was like, oh, my dad's out there thinking in my mind. But by the third night, I was probably comfortable with it
Yeah.
and putting on the show for him more than anybody
Well,
else in
and
the
that's the thing.
audience.
You're tapping into some kind of emotion that can only help your performance,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
And yet you're right. Musicals, they have that ability to make me cringe. It may be a little like golf. I cannot watch it, but it's so much fun to play. Performing in one would be an entirely different animal. I can appreciate and understand the work. I'm a band kid. I'm a chorus kid. I get that work. I don't get the dance. I never really had the dance portion of it. And going to see my friends perform them at school function, that was a whole different animal
Mm-hmm.
completely, because you wanted to be supportive of your friends. And I haven't seen that many musicals because they have turned me off. I wonder if maybe as a movie is where I get that hang up. I've never seen Grease entirely. Sound of Music, you name it. I don't care if Sound of Music is about World War II and Nazis. It's not going to miraculously turn into Indiana Jones. Okay. And I like some of the music in Grease.
Well, you're a Bee Gees fan. Barry Gibb wrote the theme song.
Oh, I see you trying to catch me in a trap created by my own words. I've stated it here many times. I got mad respect for Barry Gibb. I just don't dig musicals. I think all that happy bouncing around, it brings out my inner bully a little bit. I just don't understand the draw. The only one that comes to mind I enjoying was Little Shop of Horrors. And that came off as cartoonish to me, probably with Steve Miller and Rick Moranis,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think. And,
Yep.
and Looney Tunes, cartoons, they're not far removed from musicals. They're like little
No.
5-minute musicals.
Yep.
And it was 1990 when I first saw Rocky Horror Picture Show. I grinned. I said the polite things about it. Tim Curry is incredible. He really is. But I had an overwhelming desire by the end of it to punch him in his overly broad smiley face. There's just something, it's the melodramatics and the overacting I find annoying. It's fine and it's needed for the stage. But in a movie, not so much because your face is already right in front of me. I'm not trying to see you from 20 rows back. And I know all musicals aren't created the same. That just happens to be my stereotypical vision of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why I don't really care for Meatloaf either. His music is very musical.
Damn it, Janet.
Yeah.
That's funny. The first time I saw Rocky Horror was probably 1992. So ironically, we saw it that year at the same time. I thought the first half was fun, provocative, and enjoyable, but then it goes downhill.
He goes downhill hard.
Yeah. Just because someone likes musicals doesn't make them a fan of all musicals. So that's where
Oh,
you need to forgive me a little bit with that.
oh yeah, you're right. You're right. And again, I am speaking broadly, but
Mhm.
I just think my big issue is it doesn't need to be a movie for me, you know, and I'm just not able to make that leap or suspend whatever belief I need to in order to enjoy them. No one just starts singing and dancing for no reason. But then again, there's no proof of Jedi's either. So it's the opposite of your reason for coming around to indie music. I just can't relate to them. Well, whatever it is. A lot of the music, it's just never been hey, wait. You did you just bait me into a rant? Did you miss me ranting, Jim? Have I been too nice lately? Are you not entertained? What's going on?
Yeah, some musicals. Let's bring something around Matt doesn't like. I was expecting this. We were
Oh
talking
yeah.
about 1990, and I had to talk about the experience that I've had because, quite honestly, if I'm gonna be Danny Zuko in Greece, this is going to lead to my next 30 years of being accepting of cheesy music and
Oh
stuff that comes
yeah.
along. That people are gonna want to get up and dance and shake their asses to.
Yeah, and you've mentioned it time and time again that from a very early age, that's the kind of thing that you were drawn to doing and what you wanted to do in life.
Yeah, but it's not something that I expect everyone to be a fan of.
No, 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 not at all.
Musicals, they're a genre. It's a taste. And I'm probably 50-50 on them myself. I like your golf analogy. It is spot on. They are more fun to be in than to watch. So yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just waiting for the right one to come along.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that I need to be inundated
Yes.
with recommendations from people.
Everybody tell Matt what he needs to watch for in a musical.
No spamming, no
All
spamming.
right.
Oh my God, what did we do?
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to get to our 5 from 1990 because it's a big year of music for us
It
and
is.
we need to dive into it. So 1990 was a year you chose because you
Yeah.
wanted to bring me here, which means
Yep.
you get to go first.
And that's good. And part of my plan in bringing this year up, because I knew I would go first, it gave you the chance to go last.
Well, that's much appreciated. Thank you.
So I'm going to start it off with Paul Simon and Obvious Child. In 1990, I was making conscious choices to broaden my everyday listening. Finally, I was kind of breaking out of that new glam mold that I had set for myself. Paul Simon led the way. He re-entered my musical world in the late 80s with Graceland and then his greatest hits, Negotiations and Love Songs. So I was primed for this record and I fell in love with the percussion the first time I heard Obvious Child. Both of us talked about songs we love where horns get a moment. They're not always there. They just come in, have their moment and leave. They don't dominate it. They just give the right amount of flavor.
I agree. The percussion at the start just demands the attention of the listener. It sits so well with what really kind of is a traditional Paul Simon song, singing and playing the guitar.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, if you stripped everything else out, you would still have a Paul Simon song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally.
But he just adds all of those elements, and the horns, they're so fitting how they fill the space in that song. It has a great blend of cultural sounds. And I'm really happy that Paul Simon kind of explored that in his career.
Oh yeah, definitely. All right, Jim, where are you going to take us for your first selection?
Oh, be very afraid. So for my first selection, I am going to take us to Wilson Phillips and the song Hold On. Yeah, I can see your face.
I'm holding on, man.
This may be the greatest, cheesiest song of all time. They were a supergroup of rock and roll royalty daughters. You had Brian Wilson's daughters, and then you had Cheyenne Phillips, daughter of Michelle Phillips from the Mama and the Papas. Wilson Phillips combined made a great pop trio. They had really tremendous harmonies. And this song, the term guilty pleasure, might be where that phrase was coined from. Look, I'm just going to say, if you're like me and you like it, sing it. This is a road trip song. It's not something I'm going to put on when I'm hanging around the house and I'm just listening to music casually. But if I'm driving down the highway and the windows are down and this comes on the radio, I'm going to put it on and I'm going to sing it loud.
Yes, you will. I know you will. I've known you long enough.
Don't you know things
You
will
know,
change?
go your way.
Yeah, you
See,
know
I know it too.
it.
And yeah, I'm not going to bang on the song like you're probably expecting, because their voices fit so well together. You could tell two of them were related, but it almost sounded like all three of them were related.
Yeah, they sing like sisters.
Their voices together, it just sounded like it completed a puzzle. It was perfect.
Yeah.
And if one of my picks every week is going to be Matt's mystery pick, we're going to have to start naming some of yours Jim's Cheese Shop. We'll spell it, like with the old timey extra P and silent E at the end.
What do you mean old timey? That's how they spell it over here in the UK. No,
well,
I'm just
not
kidding.
over here.
They don't sell it. They don't. Take us to your number 2 before this goes further downhill.
Well, a band that we mentioned earlier, Damn Yankees, but I'm going to bring Coming of Age. Not a ballad, but a rocker. That opening guitar riff is great. It's so classic. I never knew I needed that vocal duo of Jack Blades and Tommy Shaw. Just like what we were talking with for Wilson Phillips, their voices fit perfectly together.
Yeah. Her name was Maybe. I love that line.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. The song is definitely another hair metal rocker, new glam. I was listening to in 1990. I had this cassette. The chorus is a perfect example of what great hair metal sounded like. And I completely agree with you. The two different singers, it was fantastic. It makes a complete band with the song. When a lot of players in hair metal, new glam, were looking for individual attention.
I just found out this week, their drummer, he's the drummer for Leonard Skinner now.
No.
Yeah. I that kind of almost blew my mind a little bit.
That is cool.
One of those unexpected thoughts. But anyway.
Yep.
All right, Jim, where are you going to take us for your second song?
All right. I'm going to go kind of punk, and I'm going to go with Social Distortion and the song Story of My Life. It's a great song. I like that entire album. Honorable mention to the cover of Ring of Fire, Johnny Cash, song is on that as well. This whole album's great from beginning to end, but this song itself is one of those songs that I still will go back to and find myself, kind of bopping my head to and singing along as I'm going down the road. But yeah, Social Distortion, Mike Ness, great representation of continuous punk out of the 70s and 80s and the 90s.
Yeah, and he definitely paid the influence forward, because you could hear where his influences were from in the 70s, and a lot of bands coming forward definitely look to Social Distortion as a major influence to them.
Yeah.
And this song, this is on point with high school life and reminiscing about it.
Oh,
this could have been your senior year anthem.
Oh, it's definitely a high school anthem. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. All right, let's go to your third song. What do you got for us?
I needed to have some They Might Be Giants. So I'm going with Istanbul, not Constantinople. Maybe it's the extra sunshine and the days finally getting longer here in Vermont, but I needed something playful this week, and I don't hear enough They Might Be Giants. It was either this or Birdhouse in Your Soul.
Oh, they're both great
I saw them
songs.
do that song on the Tonight Show with Doc Severinsen and his orchestra, and it was awesome.
Oh, that must have been great.
It was a great pair.
Yeah, this band is part pop, part like kind of kids music. It's always fun. It's cool and educational. I mean, you won't forget.
Particle Man.
The sun is a mass of incandescent gas. These guys were a blast at their peak.
Oh yeah, they definitely were.
Yeah.
Love them. All right, that is my third. What is yours?
All right, I'm going to pick a song that's probably nobody's ever heard of before. And, with everything from 1990 that people would think they would know, it's Sisters of Mercy. And the song is When You Don't See Me. It's a really unique song. It's a little industrial. It's a little metal. And it has really kind of a pop hook for the chorus and what's going on. When I was at Roger Williams, I was digging through a friend's CD collection and just trying to listen to everything that I had never heard of before. And I put this on for some reason one night. And ever since that day, it's been a song that I've absolutely loved. I think I was making mixtapes and going in and borrowing other people's CDs or trying to find other stuff that I could listen to. And it just has this really cool rock sound with a baritone, almost bass vocal connected to it. Sisters of Mercy, they've only had 2 continuous members. It is the singer, songwriter, the guy that's singing the song, and then the guy who does all the programming of the drums, and they're kind of considered more of a house band, but you wouldn't imagine that's what they were if you're going to listen to this song. I never really got into anything else of theirs, but this song, it just struck the right chord.
Yeah, this was a good song to listen to this week. It's a little bit of a throwback. I definitely hear a lot of early mid 80s vibes with what they're going. They kind of sit in well with Depeche Mode and those kind of bands.
Oh
for
yeah.
me.
Oh yeah.
I like that one a lot. That was really good.
All right, so give us your number 4.
I will go to the Rembrandts and Just the Way It Is. So it was really tough choosing songs for 1990 because there was so much good stuff in that. All these different genres were represented, but I got to include this to honor how much I listened to it. I absolutely adored this album.
Yeah,
And song.
There are songs off of it that I think kind of paved the way for bands like Toad the Wet Sprocket.
Yeah, you're right.
I don't want to use the term soft rock because it's not a 70s sound. It's it's like the 90s had this own mellow rock sound. The Jayhawks,
Dada.
These bands that came along. And I think that it really was the Rembrandts that paved the way for that music.
Yeah, I would agree with you there.
Yep.
All right. What is your next song, Jim?
All right. Well, my next one is going to be a band. I think you brought a song from them way back in the day, The Church, and the song is called Metropolis. It's one of those songs where I think back on it, and we're gonna come up on what's it, heart torn Jim eventually here as I go through this. But, the girls that I was dating in high school and, love lost, and how I, was always so brilliant at getting over being broken up with. The very first line of this song is, "There'll never be another one like you."
It's a Jim jam.
Yeah, it was a Jim jam. And but I don't know. There's this feel that kind of blends between that alternative sound that I was getting from The Cure and REM. I was also, kind of into bands like The and Love and Rockets. And, there was this kind of like UK alternative sound that was coming along at the same time. You talked about Depeche Mode a little bit before this. I mean, come on, man. Depeche Mode, Violator came out in 1990. That was
great album.
Massive.
I can't believe we didn't bring it up.
We've totally ignored that this whole show. That's a cleanup album. That is a cleanup album.
Oh, that deserves a big chunk. I mean, personally, and this is coming from me not being a huge, I'm late to the party with Depeche Mode. That's a great goddamn album.
Yeah, it is. But this was probably one of those personal songs that kind of set in between all of that.
Yeah, because they have a very relaxing soundscape to their music. And it's dreamy. It's very easy on the ears. And when you pay attention to the lyrics paired with that dreamscape, it can hit you pretty hard.
And it did.
And they have been releasing music over the years. They have an album coming out this year.
Oh, like coming up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it could be out. I haven't seen much information of it. It could be out or it could be planned, but I think it's going to be called Hypnagogue, something like that. But they had an album out in 2017. Out of curiosity, I went and listened to it. It's what you remember and loved.
Okay.
Here.
I'm going to go check it out. Awesome. Yeah. Good. What is your fifth and final song from 1990?
Well, my fifth choice is Vodka. So no, at least it was back in the day. I'm going to go pop, and I'm going to go George Michael, Freedom 90. I really respect what he was using this song and video to do to break away from his past, blowing up the jukebox and burning the leather jacket. He was saying, "This is me now."
Yeah, I have this entire album on vinyl, It was severely underrated by the quote unquote cool kids of our day. The entire album is a revelation in self-identity. George Michael was telling us in the song that even though he was coming out and not a cardboard image of what the music industry tried to define him as, we should know he wasn't going to let us down as his fans. The music video was iconic for different reasons to me, probably at the time, because, I was 17 and I thought it was the best 4 minutes on television whenever it came on. But here's the thing. I also think there's a great irony to the fact that he was letting everybody know, I'm going to put the most beautiful women in the world in this music video because I'm not attracted to any of them.
Yeah, and he wouldn't come out for a few more years, but the writing was on the wall.
He was telling people through his videos. It was right there.
And really the lyrics on this song. He was, and he ended up suing Sony Music over what he thought was a lack of support for this record, mainly around the US sales, because it really did not do well over here. He wanted to be taken more seriously as a writer, which I think he accomplished.
Yeah.
Because this is a really good album. And sometimes the label just wants you out there shaking that ass.
Yeah.
And he wanted to move beyond that part of his career. And regardless, Freedom 90 is a great song.
Oh, it is. It is. Good song. I'm happy to have it on the playlist. Thank you.
Okay. So you're going to finish up 1990 with.
Yeah, I think you've been chomping at the bit for this. All right, everybody, here we go. Well, Cinderella, which is probably more a Matt band than a Jim band. And
not this one.
Not this one. This one for rock and roll. It's a great song, no matter how you look at it. It's one of those timeless songs, in my opinion. I will still pick up my guitar from time to time and play it. There was a night that I was walking through Edinburgh, Scotland, and I walked past a venue and I heard somebody playing Cinderella, One for Rock and Roll.
No kidding.
The place.
That's awesome.
Yeah, this is one of those songs that you can just kind of pick up and play as a great filler in between trying to play everything everybody's going to be happy with. And they might not have heard it before.
Yeah, no, they may not have heard it, but it feels like you have.
Yeah, it's just a great rock and roll song.
Something familiar with it.
Yeah, yeah. All right, Matt, let it rip.
All right. Well, first, thank you for bringing this song.
We have a history with Cinderella in 1990.
Yeah, we do. But this was a really great album.
Yeah.
I don't know what inspired them to break out of the norm and make this, but I'm glad they did. There was so many different sounds and textures on it. Maybe they saw the coming end of hair metal, even though they veered hard into it afterwards. But One for Rock and Roll is a great pick. And I got to give another honorable mention. We've had a few of them, but and I'll offer an apology to Jim. Over 30 years in the making. So story time, folks.
All right.
We've talked, a long time ago, back in the day, if you were a girl who broke Jim's heart, it would take Jim quite a while to get over. and I don't think I'm speaking out of school here. Jim was the first to broach this, and I just happen to happily agree with it.
I don't mind admitting to my past. And
no, exactly. And there are certain people listening, shaking their head, going, "Yeah, you damn right."
They're like, "Thank you, Matt, for talking about this. I had to listen to so much of his bullshit."
Oh my God, everybody's going to have a therapy session with me today. I should have my tip jar out. So, one of the times Jim was over at the house, because he was over a lot back in, 89, 90, 91. And not trashing that at all. I enjoyed having you over all the time.
I'm glad
that was fun. That was fun.
All the fucking time back in
No, we had a lot of fun. We made a lot of silly videos back in the day.
Yeah,
we had a lot of fun doing it. But this one time, he was going on and on and on about this particular person that just absolutely, and she shattered his heart. But there comes a time where you can only hear about it so much, right? You can only say the things, Jim, there's more fish in the sea. Yeah, it sucks. She did you dirty, this and that. You'll find another girl. So I happen to have this CD in the CD player, and I think it was me, you, and Mark. We were hanging out, and I just went out there, and when Heartbreak Station, the song from the album, came on, and I just hit repeat. And I didn't know if you had heard it before, But there came a moment where you stopped talking. You sat down in front of the stereo, bawling your eyes out, listening to the song over and over. Because it obviously spoke to you, and Mark and I shared a chuckle at first, but after a while, we kind of looked at each other like, oh shit, Matt, did you break Jim?
Honestly, this is one of those moments that I look back at in life and I laugh my ass off at. It is
funny. But everybody has these moments too.
Oh yeah, it was that song probably was the right kind of therapy that I needed at that time.
Probably was.
And you probably did the right thing by me by putting that on and putting it on repeat and
good.
Having me sit there and look, go sit down,
wallow,
listen to this song and get it out of your system.
Yeah, and realize you're not the only one to have somebody. She's not going to be the last one to take the last train out of your heart.
Yeah. But I made a brand new start. That's all that matters.
Oh my God, Mark and Chris are probably laughing their asses off right now.
I hope so. I hope
in a good way of reminiscing.
Yeah.
And that wraps up 1990. But wait, we're not done yet. Surprise ending. This is the M. Night Shyamalan twist.
Oh, the fist fight we had over the last song
fist fight we had. Yeah, that's right. We have a shared song to add to the playlist this week.
We certainly
do. Jim, I'll let you unveil it. It is 1990. It is your year. So go ahead. Let her rip.
Well, this song is, we talked about them a little bit earlier, Extreme, Get the Funk Out.
Yes, 1990 was loaded with great music, and we both wanted this song. And there really wasn't much of a fist fight because I think both of us were very eager to just get a little extra music.
Oh, definitely. We're eager to have the extra music, but just if anybody has never heard it before, they think they know more than words or Wholehearted, go listen to this song. We talked about Nuno Betancourt being a great guitar player. The solo in this is just off the hook. But then this song has a big breakdown of a horn section, which you did not hear in hair metal. And it starts off with a great bass groove and, just kind of goes into a typical hair metal song, but ride the whole thing out, because when you get the entire way through the song, it just rises to a level like nothing else did. And that's why I think when I said earlier that Extreme were kind of the peak of hair metal out of their time.
Yeah. And if you never heard it, if you really want to hear what Nuno can actually really do, listen to Flight of the Wounded Bumblebee.
Oh yeah.
At the very beginning of He-Man Eliminator. Oh my God. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's great. It is. Well, there we go. Matt, you picked 1990, so you get to lead us out.
We want to thank everybody for tuning in to the Jam Yearbook for version 1990. We understand that there are plenty of ways you could have spent this past hour, and we're very thankful that you spent it with us. We have something special planned for next time. Our next version, it's going to be one of our cleanup shows. But as you've noticed, if you've been listening, the cleanup shows are an ever-evolving thing. We like to shake it up and just have some kind of free form episode from every now and then.
Yeah.
So what are we going to do for our next cleanup, Jim? Why don't you unveil that?
I will unveil it for us. Definitely. Well, Matt, we are coming around to 1 year since we recorded the very first episode. I'm not quite sure if this will come out on the same date or the same time as when it was released, but we're definitely going to release this show around the same time that we recorded the first episode, version 1971. And that we're going to talk about what we've learned from the past year from doing the show, what we have picked up from one another, music that you have brought to me and I've brought to you, the stuff that we've, haven't changed from liking or disliking.
Our opinions about
one way or the other. And that's
no
fine.
More musical talk.
No, that's fine. But it should be a fun show because it's an anniversary show and we'll look forward to bringing some great music to everybody. All right, time to say goodnight.
Good night, everybody. From the Jam Yearbook, I'm Matt.
And I'm Jim. Peace, love, and podcast.